it's Dr. Mary Barbera here, and for our Monday 1 p.m. Eastern Time live Q&A all about autism. And I'm just popping on a minute early. I don't have my timer today, but hopefully I've got a good connection today, which I've been a little struggling with over the past couple of weeks. So if you are here, I think I have it figured out, the tech issues. For those of you that don't know me, I am Dr. Mary Barbera, as I said. I fell into the autism world back more than 2 decades ago when my firstborn son, Lucas, started showing signs of autism. After about 15 or 18 months of age, but I didn't notice it, and I went into a deep state of denial, and he wasn't diagnosed until the day before his 3rd birthday. I've gone on to become an autism expert, international speaker, author of the Verbal Behavior Approach, How to Teach Children with Autism and Related Disorders, and online course creator. I have 2 courses, one for parents and one for parents of young children, toddlers, preschoolers, and early intervention professionals who work with those little kids, as well as a verbal behavior bundle of courses for parents of kids that are a little older, and as well as professionals who want to earn CEUs, behavior analyst CEUs. So I would love it if you are here, if you could introduce yourself, tell me if you're a parent or professional. Tell me if since the COVID shutdown, what we're into, I think 7 weeks where I'm from, what your number one autism struggle is. If you're working on anything specifically that you're stuck with. I am, in addition to answering questions, I am going to cover some of my tips on how you can make sure, if you're a parent home with your kids, one or more with autism or signs of autism, or if you're a professional trying to do telehealth or intervention helping parents, what I would recommend. That includes, I'm going to go over some of the steps, the 3 steps in my free 3-step Turn Autism Around guide, which I printed out here, and I printed it out and it took a lot of ink, but we have that now fixed, so it won't take up all that ink. But we're going to go over the 3 steps, and I'm going to tell you my input for both parents and professionals, toddlers, routines. The same 3 steps apply, whether you're starting or trying to revamp any kind of program, and in the middle of a crisis like the COVID crisis and the shutdown. It's even more reason that you might need these tips. You probably do need these tips. Even if you have a full program in place and it's working marvelously, my 3 tips will most likely help you in some way. Okay, so Samantha from my team is here, and so she'll be helping you guys in the chat, as well as Marisol from my team is also here. So yeah, if you have comments or questions as I present this little 3 steps, that would be, I will entertain those questions. I did post with the paid courses, I also have private Facebook groups, and I posted last night asking our members, more than 600 in one group and just about 500 in the other group, in the Facebook groups. Since the COVID shutdown, what are your big struggles? And for the toddler group, we had a lot of people respond saying their evaluations, they're in waiting lists to see if their child has autism. So the waiting lists are a problem. That the evaluations are actually being canceled or being done online, which they don't feel is a true reflection. They are not getting the therapists come in to help. Therapists are trying to do telemedicine, telehealth, teleintervention, whatever you want to call it, with little kids, which involves a lot of parental caregiver input. And some of those parents are like you, are trying to work and trying to manage kids at home with or without disabilities. So it can get very hairy. So the toddler group was, their waiting lists for autism just got longer. Their treatments. One person posted that he and his wife joined my toddler preschooler course at the beginning of COVID, and they are thrilled that they have now taken this time to learn how to become the captain of the ship. They are feeling empowered. They're seeing progress. So it's not just struggles either. Somebody in my verbal behavior bundle is using this time to potty train her son. And so it's not all bad. And some people are able to use this time to make some progress. So if you are here and you are struggling with something related to autism since the shutdown, let us know. And if it's something different, the verbal behavior bundle course members said they're struggling with engaging, 10 and 12-year-old kids, as well as families with multiple siblings who all need different things. Okay, so we have a lot of comments coming in. A single parent of a 5-year-old son with autism, a preschool teacher, excellent. Emily, I'm a teacher and currently trying to give parents resources to help children with autism at home. Well, I think you're going to get a lot out of this session. I am going to start in just a moment or two and give you some real tips that you can use immediately. I think you'll love it. Parent of a 3-year-old with a speech delay. Would you be available as an expert witness explaining why early intervention is important? No, unfortunately, I don't do any expert witnessing, but I do have 2 or more video blogs and podcasts, Turn Autism Around. If you just want to Google Mary Barbera legal disputes, I have some podcasts on the topic. I interviewed an attorney who took an autism case, was involved all the way up to the Supreme Court. So I do have a lot of knowledge, and I don't do any expert witnessing, though. Early intervention is critical, up to 40 hours a week, yes. I have a 7-year-old autistic grandson who would like to spit and spew liquid out of his mouth. Any suggestions? Okay, so we will talk about the 3 steps you can take to learn to get a handle on any behaviors, whether it's spitting or hitting or not talking, and we're going to use that guide. Let me just check here for the questions that might be coming in through Facebook. And okay, behavior analyst and teacher from Georgia. I have to arrange to support my parents through technology to complete programs we were working on in school. And that is particularly tough with a child with autism. It's tough with just a typically developing child, especially with a child with some moderate to severe needs. Amanda's struggling with homeschooling. Mom of typically developing 6-year-old and an 8-year-old with autism. Please share some OT activities for a speech delay for a 5-year-old autistic child. I do have a few video blogs on sensory needs, if you want to just search Mary Autism Sensory. And I also just interviewed, it's not out yet, a Turn Autism Around podcast episode with my friend Dory Blanchet, who's been an OT for 30 years. So very much would love to partner more with OTs and speech therapists and behavior analysts and teachers in order to really get one approach going for these kids, which I think is key. Okay, so as promised, I'm just going to take the next 10 or 15 minutes, maybe shorter, maybe longer, to explain the 3-step guide. Turn Autism Around, 3 steps parents and professionals can take today. So I wrote this guide a few years ago, but I just recently updated it with some new things. But I wrote it a couple of years ago because, as you know, or as you're learning, if you're just finding out about me now, you're learning that I help both parents and professionals, novices to experts, working with toddlers with signs of autism all the way up to young adults with moderate to severe autism. So it is a huge huge range of who I could help. I even can help kids, parents of kids with typically developing kids, because I'm also a parent of a son who is in college, who's going to med school next year. I'm also a behavior analyst. I'm also a nurse. So if you learn my system, you can actually solve a lot of issues, or at least get to the next step of solving your issues. As I said, a lot of the feedback from my members is that they're struggling with trying to keep their kids entertained, trying to help them not stim so much, not watch so much screen time. And with professionals, they're struggling with how to really help kids and families with autism remotely, okay? Which is going to really involve putting the parent into the captain seat of the boat. And for parents who have learned with me, I've been doing online courses for 5 years now, over 5 years. They are empowered so that they can learn better ways to work with professionals and to help their kids reach their fullest potential. So I am all about each child reaching his or her fullest potential, becoming as safe, as independent, and as happy as possible. So these 3 steps will really help anyone watching, which I think is so important. So you can download the free guide, whether you want to do that now or after. Probably after the show would be good, because I am going to go over this, and then I find it's only 9 or 10 pages long. It's not really long, but I find that if somebody explains something to me, then when I pick it up and read it, it makes even more sense. So the first step of the 3 steps is to assess the child you are concerned about. And you may say, well, my child just had a speech evaluation. They've got all their yearly assessments. They just had a bunch of assessments done. I'm not, I'm a parent. I don't really know how to assess them. But it's really important from my perspective that you take this 1-page assessment form and you assess them, because this will help you. It's only going to take you 5 or 10 minutes to create this 1-page assessment form, to fill it out. It's basically the date you're completing it, the person completing, the child's name, their age in terms of years and months. Of course, if they're 10 years or 15 years old, you don't need to know months. But when you are talking about a child that's 3 years and 2 months versus 3 years and 11 months, that's a big difference. That's almost 4. The younger, it's important to know years and months. We ask about the diagnosis. Do they have a diagnosis? The age they were diagnosed. Does your child currently, what are their services now? Now, with the pandemic, very few people in the entire world are getting the services that they're supposed to be getting. So you could put in there what their normal services is or what they're getting now. Medication, allergies, and then safety awareness concerns. Remember, I just said that I want each child to be as safe, as independent, and happy as possible. So we have to look at safety. And so some member was last night saying that she feels bad because her and her husband have to work remotely. And so the child ends up with 3 hours of screen time in the mornings when they're, into the thick of things with their work. And, my response would be, it's ideal not to have 3 hours straight of screen time. However, is the child safe with the screen? Is he staying in one spot? Is he roaming around? Some kids take the iPad and smash their head on it. Like, that obviously isn't safe. So we have to look at activities they can do to keep them busy while being safe. So safety concerns, or do they wander? Do they know about strangers? Do they know about traffic? Can they go outside by themselves? Can they take walks by themselves? And the range is certainly great. My son with autism, Lucas, he's 23 years old and he can't go for walks. He's aware he hears a car, he'll get over. He's aware in parking lots that if somebody's backing up that he should stay away. And now he has a lot of awareness to stay with us. But when he was young, he used to wander and dart away without realizing the ramifications, to the point where police were called and all sorts of things. I even have a former client who I worked with when he was 2 and 3, who ended up wandering away from his house and drowning in a neighbor's pool when he was 6. And this was about 5 years ago. But so I know all too well, both personally and professionally, how safety should be our number one concern. So safety is number one, whether you're working with a 2-year-old or you have a 12-year-old or a 20-year-old. Self-care is next on the one-page assessment, and we just go through eating, sleeping, potty, and grooming, brushing teeth, washing hands. Washing hands is so important. I did do a video blog on washing hands. When the coronavirus shutdown first happened, I did a whole video blog on that, so you can download that. I believe that's at marybarbera.com/hand washing. And then we have, once we get through the self-care checklist, you can complete the speaking expressive language, and that goes through manding, tacting, verbal imitation, answering questions or interverbals, and then the receptive language, and that is understanding of what is happening. Then we assess imitation, visual things like matching and puzzle building, social and play concerns, like are you concerned about eye contact, greetings, playing with toys, sharing, showing, responding to name, and then finally problem behaviors. And as you can see, I mean, I rattled off a bunch of things. You might be thinking, well, I think that would take me longer than 10 minutes, but really, I think if you put your mind to it, 10 minutes, you could have that one-page assessment done. And you might be thinking, well, what's the point? My child's 12, he's had a dozen assessments. It's really important when you're in the middle of a crisis like we all are right now, that we get a quick handle on what the current situation is, so that we can know where we're at in all of these areas. So what I find is it's great to have a speech and language evaluation, but that's not going to go over allergies, medication, self-care, problem behaviors, which is all a part of helping each child reach their fullest potential. Before I go to the second step, let me see if there are questions in either of the spots where I'm broadcasting. Okay. Parent of a 2.5-year-old daughter with signs of autism. Always she wants us to follow her interest, how to change her mind, or how to teach her what we want to teach. Yeah, I would download this free guide at marybarbera.com/join and watch a free workshop on the things you can do with a child, with a toddler with delays or with a diagnosis of autism. But what I teach in my online course is how to pair up certain materials and table and really to make your child really want to learn from you. And we have a lot of success with that. So I would encourage anyone with a child 4 or younger to check out the toddler course, which you'll find out about if you just sign up for the 3-step guide. Can you provide us some tips and activities at home to do with an autistic 2.5-year-old? Yeah, just like I said to the person that commented above, just download the guide. I'm going to be giving you some tips here, and then also watch the free workshop and consider joining my online course and community, where there's a whole lot more you can do. And that's what people are doing. They're like, you know what? They're not getting therapy, or they're getting remote therapy. I have time now, even though you're a little probably stressed about a lot of things. Use this time to learn how you can become the real expert on your child and help your child with or without a diagnosis, because the best time to act is right now. I'm learning to be an ABA therapist. Kindly give some sensory diet for a child who's sensory issues, from Dubai. So if you want to search Mary Autism Sensory, you'll find out what I think about sensory issues. But what I think about sensory issues is it's all a part of this one-page assessment. And I'm a behavior analyst, so I treat things with a behavioral point of view, but I'm also a registered nurse and a mom and an advocate. And so I have a very holistic view. I'm not against, everybody's got sensory issues, and so we address that within the confines of all of my courses and everything I teach about. But if you want to know specifically, search that and you'll find out my views on sensory. 2-year-old with autism, how to make him follow directions and follow a conversation. So at first, a 2-year-old, even a typically developing 2-year-old who does not have autism is not going to be able to follow a full conversation. They're not going to have enough language to make that happen. Following simple directions, getting them to talk, getting them to follow simple one-step directions, getting them to imitate, getting them to do very primitive insert puzzles. That's what you want to do. And that's where my toddler course would be really great for you, Annette. So you'll find more out about that if you download my guide, watch the free workshop that comes right after it, and consider joining my online course, because there's only so much I can do here with answering questions. I am going to go back and cover steps 2 and 3 from the guide. But, I produce tons of free content. So Mary, autism, whatever your topic is, I probably have a free video blog or a podcast about it. But my online courses are a lot more step-by-step, which is really helping a lot of people. All right, so good afternoon. I enjoyed reading your book, The Verbal Behavior Approach. I gained insight to help my child with autism who's non-vocal as well. Keep spreading awareness and take care. Excellent. So if you loved my book is 12 or 13 years old now. It was published in 2007. It's available in 13 languages. And I'm writing a second book that will be out next April. And this will be for little children, basically my toddler preschooler course in a book, to help raise awareness that the best time to treat autism or signs of autism is at the very first signs. And I want this book and all of my work to empower parents to become that person that can really learn how to turn things around. Okay. Is there a fee for the classes? Yes, I have a lot of free classes, which you'll find out about with my free workshop invite right after you download the free guide. But then I do have 2 paid courses. So you can look into that after the broadcast. My 3-year-old has mild autism, sensory issues. He's really hyper. Is it kind of hard for him to focus? Any advice? Yeah, I think one of the advices, which kind of goes into the autism step, the assessment step, is not to really focus on his mild autism or high functioning autism. He's only 3. My son Lucas, when he was 3, when he was diagnosed with autism, actually when he was 2, when he was showing signs, he went to typical preschool. He really didn't look like there was much wrong except for a speech delay. My husband and I thought it was very mild if he would be diagnosed, but by the time we waited, because of my denial, we waited, and then he was diagnosed with moderate to severe autism, and he looks... he's much more impaired now than he looked when he was little. And so I did a video blog, something about, can you tell how a 2-year-old's going to do when he's 8? And you can't. you can't say, oh, he's mild or it's very high functioning. You have to work like it's the most severe case of autism you ever saw and put the procedures in place. And so I have been, I created my approach, which is behavior analyst, mom, nurse, advocate, created this very holistic approach to treating autism. And so I have podcasts on high functioning versus low functioning. I have video blogs, lots of information. So my one piece of advice was, don't rest on your laurels, or don't just think everything is going to work itself out, because sometimes the kids that get more aggressive treatment they might surpass kids with just a few issues. Claudia, thank you, Mary, for your amazing work. I'm a BCBA and ABA business owner and absolutely recommend your resources to my families and staff. Excellent, Claudia. Thank you for joining us today. And also know, as a BCBA, that I do my verbal behavior bundle of courses also provides 32 learning CEUs for behavior analysts, which we have many, many behavior analysts within our online course and community. So spread the word to professionals and consider joining us as well there. Caroline, my son is 2.5 and was diagnosed with autism last year. He's nonverbal, has been in therapy for a year. He's still nonverbal. Should I be worried? Worrying is not going to help anything, but action will help. And he's only 2.5. I would strongly encourage you to download the guide, check out the workshop, and consider joining our online course and community. My son will be 2 next month. Does speech delay automatically mean a child with autism? No, it doesn't. Speech delay and autism, and actually my most popular video on YouTube with almost 500,000 hits, 500,000 views last time I checked, is called "Is It Autism or Speech Delay?" So check that out. Check out my guide. We've got probably half of our members within our Turn Autism Around Toddler community are parents of kids without a diagnosis yet. The waiting lists are long. There's a lot you can do, and it really doesn't matter whether it's autism or not. There's lots you can do, and it's the same things. Same things that are in my guide, that are in my workshops, that are in my paid courses. Okay, so let me just check here, make sure we're not missing any major problems. Then I'm going to go to step 2 in the guide. Reason I have to go to my phone is because my computer here only shows me a couple of the okay, we have a mom who is dealing with aggression towards his twin sister. He's very attached to me, and when he's aggressive, very upset, gets very upset and aggressive. He's 25 months old, so you've got twins, 25-month-olds with aggression. Also, he seems to not like my husband anymore. So Claudia, so you have twin 25-month-olds. Your name sounds familiar, so I'm thinking you might be in my online community already. But if you're not, there's a lot you can do in terms of, we want to spend 95% of our time preventing problem behaviors. That may mean that your husband, you need to repair your husband, have him learn to do table time, have him learn to deliver reinforcement, have him trade off. Okay, you're going to take the twin, now I'm going to take, and do it in different configurations so that it's not always just the twins hanging on you both for your attention. So there's a lot you can do. First step would be to download the guide and work yourself through the guide. Do you have online classes for aggression caused by puberty? This is not the usual autism meltdown. I have a really good video podcast on medications and with Lucas, my son's psychiatrist, who's also an autism dad. Dr. Michael Murray It's on podcast number 28. So marybarbera.com/28. Lucas started having aggression and self-injurious behavior around the age of 14. So everybody was like blaming it on puberty. And I think a lot of problem behaviors get blamed on puberty and get blamed on autism. And I think it's a medical problem in a lot of cases. So listen to that podcast. And my courses are not for specific issues, but they really address the needs of kids, no matter what the age is if they're not conversational. So if you're saying, I'm not sure how old your child is, but it doesn't matter. So if he's 12 or if he's 5 or if he's 20, if he has the language ability of a 4-year-old or lower and is not conversational, my courses can help. And they can help not just with talking, but also with any problem behavior, sensory needs, self-care needs, leisure needs, which are all intertwined. 8-year-old autistic boy always wants to be naked at home. He hates clothes. How do you feel? Yeah, Lucas liked to strip down when he was first diagnosed too, and it was really stressful for me. I'd turn my back and he would just strip down. So I do think that there's some sensory needs involved and like not liking certain clothes and that sort of thing. Some of it is just supervision. I know of like some of my clients would take off their shoes and we'd let them take off their shoes, then the next would be their pants and stuff. So if we kept them in their shoes, that was helpful. So it's more of an issue. I think the big thing, and I am going to get back to the 3-step guide, is I think to do a whole assessment, a whole 1-page assessment, not just look at he wants to be naked all the time, but now we have to step back. Because being naked all the time is a huge problem. But if he's also, biting his sister and he's also not talking and not toilet trained and depending on the age, there could be other priorities or other prerequisites that you're going to want to work on first. So just to review, I'm going to step back into the 3-step guide and just give you the next step in the guide. So this is a 3-step guide. You can get it. It's on the screen, marybarbera.com/join. And the 3 steps, the first step, which I already reviewed, was to do the 1-page assessment, no matter what the age or ability level. The second step is to make a plan. And that plan should be related to the age and what typical kids are doing at that age, and then the gap. So if you have a 5-year-old that's not potty trained, but he's also not talking, not imitating, not dressing, not pulling his pants down, not hand washing, not and functioning really at a 1-year-old level, then potty training, while it's a need, and while a lot of typically developing 3 and 4-year-olds are completely potty trained, for this particular child, the gap with the other things, like pulling down his pants, washing his hands as prerequisites for potty training, might be something that's more immediate for the plan. So my planning form is, again, just 1 page in length. There's a sample here where we put the child's name, the age. We're basing our plan on our 1-page assessment. So we're not having to go back through reams of old data and everything. We're just taking a quick snapshot. Where's the child at? What should be the plan? So for this sample, I have a child who's 3 years old, just over 3. The strengths column include sleeps well, has pop-out words, reaches for things he wants, and severe problem behaviors limited to meal times usually. Now, the needs column, which is right next to it, we have eating problems, drinks out of a bottle and uses a pacifier. Remember, he's 3 years, 2 months. Does not use any words for anything he wants, cannot echo or label anything, does not follow directions, no imitation, puzzles, cries or whines, doesn't sit at the learning table, and potty training. So we've got a bunch of needs for a 3.2-year-old. But potty training isn't really going to be something we're going to work on intensively unless there's some reason for it, because we have all of these very low-level skills like weaning from a bottle, teaching the child to talk, teaching him to imitate and do puzzles, which are all going to, in the end, really help with language and functioning. And then after we do the strengths and the needs, again, this is taking 10 minutes. Then we come up with our plan, which our plan right here is to pair the table and materials with reinforcement, start learning time at the table daily, pair sitting on the potty 2 times a day. Like I said, we're not going to work on it intensively, but I would recommend that pairing of a potty a couple of times a day isn't really going to hurt anything, and maybe the child will have some natural interest. Weaning from a bottle and pacifier, I do have video blogs on that, free cheat sheets, steps for weaning from bottles or pacifiers. I do believe that if a child is plugged up a lot of the day with a pacifier or is taking a bottle way past the age of 1, that it is affecting their speech and their oral motor functioning and their chewing and swallowing and progression of food. So to me, weaning from a bottle and a pacifier would be really important for a 3-year-old. And collect data on words heard and problem behaviors. And we're going to get to step 3 in a second, which is all about how to keep data. And data doesn't have to be scary, and it doesn't have to be reams and reams of data. It can be very easy. And we have used a very simple data collection sheet calendar for Lucas for many, many years, and it's really helped us. Somebody asked a question about aggression and those sorts of things, and it's like, we probably would not have figured out his aggression and the medications that he's on, the right medications, had we not been so clear about taking this easy data and really using the data to make decisions and make progress. So before we get more into which data, just want to review the 2 steps, or the 1-page assessment form and the 1-page plan. They're all a part of this guide for free at marybarbera.com/join. Let me take a couple more questions and then we'll bounce back and do the 3rd step to our guide. Thank you for all you do. Please, how do I get my almost 4-year-old to go past speaking in syllables? Mon for monkey, etc. Yeah, so most people want their kids to speak in 4-word sentences and that sort of thing, but it's really much smarter to do syllables, go from 1-syllable words to 2-syllable words. I have produced a lot of free content. If you want to just search Mary Autism Talking, lots of free resources on how to do that. And then in my online courses are more step-by-step exactly what to do. But it's a progression, and getting him to say, so monkey, he's saying mon. But my question would be, what are the words you're hearing? Any clear words? Hi, bye, cat. Those are 1-syllable words. So listen for them. Try to get him to talk and do a 15-minute sample of what words you're hearing, or an hour sample, and see what words he's saying clearly, what words he's saying completely. There may be some 2-syllable words that he is saying completely, maybe like mama, which is the same ma and ma combined. Nana, like for banana. So really break down your words into 1 and 2 syllables and go from there. Sue Man said, "Thank you for helping parents around the world." Actually, I love helping parents around the world. My In my online course and community, I've had parents and professionals from 80 different countries, over 80 different countries, which is just so um, amazing that we are able to help so many people around the world. And just doing lives like this is enabling me to reach all of you. And I'm happy that you're spending some time learning from me. So glad that you are here. All right, Jessica said, when teaching WH questions, do we teach one at a time or two to generalize? When teaching to ask WH question, ask or answer, that would be my question. But regardless, you have to make sure that the child has prerequisites before you teach children to ask or answer any WH questions. Otherwise, it will be rote responding. It will be very robotic. And the child really will, I heard an example from somebody. The child was supposed to, was taught to rotely answer, "How are you?" And he was supposed to say, "I am fine." And then somebody had the idea, "Hey, well, let's have the child ask the adult, ask me back, 'How are you?'" So then it would go, "How are you?" to Johnny. Johnny would say, "I am fine. How are you?" Not knowing any of that. That's chained together. That's going to be such a mess. So you can't do that. If we're talking about answering WH questions, that all has to be done via an assessment called the Intervertebral Sub Test, which I teach about. And it has to be done very systematically. So fill in the blanks for songs, for instance, comes before. So it might start with "Twinkle, twinkle, little," and the child might answer "star," fill in the blank with "star." Then it might progress to fill in the blanks with phrases like "you sleep in a bed," but he has a choice of a couple pictures down on the table. You can see how complicated this gets. Even when we get to kids answering questions, "What do you eat?" is a lot easier question to answer than "What do you eat for breakfast?" or "What do you eat for breakfast that's hot?" or what does your brother eat for breakfast that you don't like that's cold? We're talking major discrimination. And if you just think about, like, if you were learning a foreign language, you would not be able to answer anything with multiple discriminations for many, many years of language learning. So we need to back it way up and figure out the prerequisites. So this one-page assessment and plan would really help you figure out where your child is at in those areas. Any tips to teach yes and no? Yeah, I have a video blog on that. I created a system. One of the few people in the world that actually knows how to teach yes and no. Check out the video blog by searching Mary Autism Yes and No. And I also have a whole lesson within my paid courses. Okay, it looks like my 2-year-old doesn't understand when I'm trying to tell him something. Well, what should I do? It's so difficult to make him understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so that involves assessing. So part of the assessment form is, can your child, under receptive, that's receptive language, understanding, does your child respond to his name? If you tell your child to get his or her shoes and pick them up, give you a cup, will he do that? If you tell him to clap your hands or touch your body parts like head or touch your nose without showing him, will he do that? And so we need to get a clear picture of, I know when I took Lucas for evaluations and stuff when he was little, I wanted him to do well. So I said, "Oh yeah, he can touch his body parts." And then somebody called me out on it. So like, we try to check his body parts. He can't touch his body parts. How do you get him to teach his body parts? They weren't being mean. They were just like, "Hey, do you have a certain way? Or are you asking a certain way?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, you have to say first, Barney, sing the Barney song. First we touch our head and then our toes and belly and then our nose," or something like that. So what I was doing is I was prompting him with a song. I was showing him first we touch our head and then our toes. So it was part imitation, part sing-songy, which was part of a routine. And he really, if you just sat on your hands and said, touch your nose versus touch your head, he had no idea. So teaching kids to talk and teaching kids to understand and teaching kids to imitate and teaching kids to match or do puzzles are all part of the picture in order to help your child really start understanding the world around him. And it's not just an easy, oh, he's going to get this overnight. It's going to take a lot of work. Okay, so we are going to get to our third step in just a second. Somebody needs help with potty training. I have a free video blog. I have a podcast on potty training. I have 2 bonus videos on potty training within the course. As a registered nurse and a behavior analyst and mom, I have a unique approach to teach potty training. And one of the things I usually recommend is pick a time when you're going to be home for like 2 weeks, a lot. And we're all home a lot for the next 2-3 weeks. So I also have a potty training guide, marybarbera.com/potty, which is a free potty training guide. You may want to print that out if you're struggling with potty training or if you've tried in the past and it hasn't worked. If your child is over 3 years of age, I think he can be potty trained regardless of his ability level. But take a look at the free guide. Okay, so step 1 is all about assessment. I have a 1-page assessment you can complete quickly. Step 2 is a one-page plan. And then step 3 is all about taking data, using a physical calendar. I know everybody wants to have their calendar on their phone, and I have my calendar on my phone, but I have Lucas's behavioral calendar, which is also his medication, allergy shot, problem behaviors, all go into a physical calendar. And also he has habilitation staff that come into the home, and so their schedule's also in there. But we use the calendar really for any problem behaviors, any illness like runny nose, because we've also managed to collect data on the need for allergy shots for the past 7 years. So problem behavior, allergies, headaches. He tends to have problem behaviors when he has a headache, whether Motrin is given. And then, so I have in step 3, I have why I keep a physical calendar. I have a sample. I've also helped families where they're having severe sleep problems. So they use the calendar for sleep data. I've used a calendar system for kids that have a tough time going out into the community, like going to a playground or going to Kmart, Walmart. And we've rated their outings, and we've it really helps you keep track of things. Even my parents who are in their 80s now have some medical issues, and the doctor is changing my mom's medication. And so I'm telling her, keep it on a calendar. We've reduced it from 3 pills a day to 2 pills a day. And these were my symptoms. And then he increased this med. And if you don't keep track of things, like Lucas has been on like probably 12 traditional medications when he was young. And he didn't do well on any of them enough to continue. But I don't know what we tried, what dosage, what he weighed, why we put him on, why we took him off without a calendar system, which now I have 7 or 8 years of calendar systems. I take the physical calendar to the doctor, to the psychiatrist, to any specialist, to his family practice doctor, and we literally use this calendar data to make decisions. And it's been really successful. So that is all explained in the 3rd step. Again, this is a very short guide. I think it's 8 pages. You can read it in a few minutes. Complete the guides, complete the assessments, the plan, the calendar. And then I encourage you to also watch the free workshop, which you'll find out about after the guide. Because in the end, It's great that there's so much free autism information out there. I produce a ton of free content, but in the end, there is too much free content, and you could be swimming around in the big ocean. You need to make a plan, assess quickly, make a plan, and learn to navigate the system as quickly as possible to help your child, even if they're not really young. If they're older, every day that goes by is a day to get things to be a little bit better and not worse. And knowledge is power. So I'm happy that you're here learning these tips from me. I'm happy to answer any final questions about the 3-step guide or my online courses and community or anything else that you're struggling with. My 3-year-old follows instructions but doesn't answer questions like, what do you eat? How to tackle this? Yeah, that's just a part of the next step, which is really answering questions. I use the VB MAP assessment. Yes, this 1-page assessment will get you far in just 10 minutes, but you're probably going to need a bigger assessment eventually. I use the VB MAP assessment, which was written by Dr. Mark Sundberg, and my online courses, my verbal behavior bundles, all created around using the VB MAP assessment as one of the tools that is really helpful. Answering questions is called an interverbal. So I also have some content, some podcasts, some video blogs on that. So you can search Mary Autism Interverbal for more information about answering questions. Okay. A friend suggested a therapist because we have tried lots of things. He's 7, and I think I'm starting to need a therapist for his potty issues. Check out the free guide, marybarbera.com/potty. Really, you can get all the experts in the world, but if you teach yourself how to help your child, you're going to always be there. Therapists are going to come and go, and it's a lot of work one way or the other. If a consultant or a therapist comes in and tells you, well, try this, try that, you're going to still have to try it. I have a proven approach to potty, to teaching talking, to teaching following directions, to teaching imitation. I have a proven system. So my suggestion would be to get some free information and then consider joining our online course and community, where you're going to be able to get more support, because there's going to be some pitfalls and some 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and just answering questions or just asking questions here or there, that might help if I teach you how to teach interverbals, but his behavior may be a big issue, or his potty training may be a big issue, sleep may be a big issue. And so I'm really encouraging everybody to look at the big picture, to look at the forest, not the trees, not focus on academics when you don't have even the ability to request your wants and needs. Like, there are certain things that come first. And if you just think about, learning a brand new language like Japanese, your first step is going to have to learn some words. And those words are going to be things that are going to be important to you, things that you might need, like water and taxi or Uber in Japanese, or, food. And then you're not going to be able to answer questions in Japanese for a long time until you learn some basic language. And so there's a step-by-step process for teaching that language, because otherwise, if you teach it wrong, you teach with things like carrier phrases. Like, I had a client once who, she learned to talk, but I hadn't seen her for a couple months, and I went in, and the therapist was doing flashcards, and her name was Faith, and she was saying, that's a cup, that's a cat. And I'm like, where did that's come from? Because I don't teach carrier phrases. But I hadn't seen her for a while. And so the therapist said, oh, Mom took her to a private speech therapist. She must have taught her carrier phrases. And then we held up a picture of Faith. Her name was Faith. And I said, who's this? And she said, that's a Faith. And that's where we get into problems, because these carrier phrases, or I want cracker, and then it's I want open, I want kick, it just gets weird. So if we don't teach language flexibly in the right order, we will get weird language, we will get stimming, we will get scripting, and it's a lot of effort to undo that. My 3.5-year-old repeats words but doesn't speak in sentences. Also, he isn't potty trained. I've been depressed for a year because the doctors keep pushing us back. Yeah, so my online course and community could really help you put it all together. We teach how to expand language carefully so that we're not teaching rote responding. We teach potty training. We teach also mindset. How do you as a parent stay happy and healthy even though, you've got these big issues and no real guidance? My grandson is almost 4, and my daughter says she can't get him checked for a year. I'm really worried. He's very smart, but can't have a real conversation. How know his name or follow directions? Yeah, we've had several grandparents join our online course, and they feel the same way. They feel helpless for their adult children, for their grandchildren, and some of the grandparents have reported such success that I have a podcast by Grandma Diane. I don't know what the episode is, but it's a great episode of how she helped her little grandson. My 3-year-old knows all his alphabets, numbers, colors, and shapes. Yeah, this is the ability to recognize letters and read before you can speak is called hyperlexia. I did do a video blog on this, Mary Autism Hyperlexia, for the video blog. I think in a lot of ways, it feels like you're taking a step backward, but you need to teach him functional language and not just those academics. So if he truly knows the basic language plus all of that, and he's 3, but not having a conversation, then the verbal behavior bundle might be more appropriate. But if in doubt, you can always email us at info@marybarbera.com, and we can help you figure out which of our 2 courses at this point is the best approach to start with. All the details about the online course are at marybarbera.com/courses. But I encourage you to check out the free guide. Make sure that you are, in line with that I can do this one step. I can do this assessment. I can do this plan. I can put in, it's not going to be a, enormous amount of work, but it is going to be work. So it's not just like I tell you the price of the course and you get in and everything's solved. It's work, and it's but it's very step by step, and it's a very supportive community. So yeah, I think I would love for anybody to check that out. Okay, so it looks like we are getting to the top of the hour. Any final questions? Just let me know. So someone says, thank you so much. You're so appreciated. Well, I thank you all for watching. If you're watching the replay and you have a question, type it in the comments. And if we don't get to you, you can always email us at info@marybarbera.com if you have, a question that you can't find the answer to. But literally most of what I've said out in the world is searchable. Mary Autism plus your topic. I've probably addressed it in one of my many, many hundreds of video blogs or podcasts. So check out that information. I will be back here, same time, same place, 1 p.m. Eastern time for the next Autism Live. Let us know if you've enjoyed this show, and also if you have questions or topics for the future. I'm happy to cover them. So have a great day. And one last note is, if you're a professional working with families and doing telehealth, having each family that you're doing telehealth complete the one-page plan, assessment and plan, and teach them to take data. This will really help you get started or revamp your telehealth program too. So I want to make sure I covered that. I don't know that I explicitly said that, but this really can help you Like say you're struggling, you're supposed to be teaching, language for learning online to a first grade student and it's not going well. It doesn't go that well in person, let alone over the internet. Why don't you back up a little bit? Have the parent fill out the assessment and the plan with or without you, and then talk about it and talk about what the real needs are. I know you have IEP goals, but there's a lot of different ways you can work on IEP goals that would be amenable to the family at this point, I'm sure. You're going to need to work collaboratively. That's why all of my material is appropriate for both parents and professionals, because we don't have time to waste in the autism world, and we need to all get on the same page to make the child the number one priority and get him or her to reach their fullest potential. So on that note, have a great week. 1 p.m. next time, Eastern time, right here. Hope to see you then. Bye.